This country been run by a brother goats, the greediest of all time. They have all of self and none of the mentality. The chorus is bunch of pigs and goats running this desk, and the latest deception and betrayal is really cause for alarm. They're the greediest of all time. It is plain to see the true gang and give a damn about you and me. Even big supporters crying foul and shame at all these comrades dirtying the Labour Party name. Don't business about that as long as they pocket fat. Too bad who don't agree. The goat them say it's all about me. That's the chorus. Who is the nanny gate liar? Who don't spin doctor? Men. Whose whole agenda is to make themselves richer and the poor harder. They say I know that I greedy, but I beg you don't watch me stop being hateful. Instead just be grateful. All the good them say it's all about me. That's the slogan. The big salary increase is just the latest injustice to be imposed on the people by these blundering misfits. They're selfish and greedy with no love for the needy. Grabalicious and run race, make the thing ain't got no taste. Disrespectful and pompous, arrogant and self-righteous. These goats too brave and bold, ain't got no heart, no soul. They fed on their own nest, we not a care for the rest. They say it's all about me. That's the goat, them mantra. Who want the whole hog treating poor people like dog men? Who keep flying high and start living our sons here to die? Men. Who take the pepper, the pop and kill off the peace? Men. Enough talking about lift and elevate, just words and promises but no relief. Who lacking empathy, compassion, humility, Who think that shame, lame, rename is a sustainable strategy? Hear the goat, them men. But woe be unto these ghosts and vampires. For Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10 says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. Firstly, a grievous evil under the sun, well according to the harm of its owners, lost to misfortune, so that their children have nothing to inherit. So let them carry on, God don't like ugly. Who playing, who fooling, who since June 2022, men. Who do the big bet and switch, divide the poor and the rich, men. Who raking in bigly while so many going hungry, Who are disgrace of behind blood sucking parasite, a bunch of termites. It more them, We love to serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay.
Hello everyone, welcome. Upon it this evening. Perspectives is a program, a social media program, which is brought to you by the People's Action Movement, one of the formidable opposition parties here in St. Kitts and Nevis. On this evening's edition, we will zero in on the prospects of our school leavers, our young people in St. Kitts and Nevis. But before we do that, we, out of respect for the spate of, or rather the loss of lives that we have recently experienced in St. Kitts, we just want to take time to pay homage to the families and to offer our sincerest sympathies and condolences. We seem to be in this space too often these days, and we pray that there would be a time when peace would prevail as we sing so lustily in our national anthem. And so we want to offer our condolences to all those who have lost loved ones in recent times. And in particular, we want to remember one of our very own, Sandra Roberts, who was active in constituency number 2. And we saw a notice that was posted on the Facebook of the former member, the former parliamentarian, Jonelle Powell, who personally offered condolences, and so did our political leader, who shared a message of condolence on our Facebook page. And so it is sad that we, have to again be at this place, and we only hope that, in the coming weeks and days and months, things would really get better. That is our prayer. And so this evening, we would be talking, as I said earlier, specifically about the prospects for young people. And perhaps somewhere in that conversation, and by disclaimer, we don't have any statistics, we don't have any data to corroborate this, but we are wondering if there might be some correlation between perhaps the poor job prospects of our young people and perhaps some of the activities that we are seeing around here. We don't know, we're not saying that, but we're just putting it out there that may be a possibility. So this evening, I want you to help me welcome our presenter. He's somebody who is well known. He has had his own foray in politics, and they say politicians don't really retire, so I guess he hasn't retired. He has also been a teacher, an educator, and it is said, once an educator, always an educator. And so we thought that was a fairly good mix to bring him to the table this evening to speak about the subject matter. And so I want everybody to help me to welcome Dr. Charles Warner.
Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Caines. And as you were speaking, it occurred to me of that old adage, the devil find work for idle hands. And also, it's interesting, I sat with Miss Roberts at the PAM caucus. We sat next to each other. And there's an amazing factor in this whole crime issue. I heard of a guy named Henry who got killed on Navy Street. A few days later, I learned that he's the son of my best friend, a guy we call Tackers from Challengers, Moray. Very good friend of mine, and I actually called him and spoke to him. But it just shows you're hearing of a crime, a shooting, and then 5 days later, here we are, the son of one of your very good friends. And indeed, the matter of the prospects for our school leavers, it's a very, very critical problem. There's been a paradigm shift. In my time and up to the early 90s, once you leave school, you can find a job in the private sector, the public sector. But something went wrong in 1995, where the then government took people of virtually no qualifications and put them into the civil service. So when the child of someone graduated college, there was no job for him. In that era, the private sector constricted, and the government sector was filled with people who were not qualified. And we have to establish where we are. Are we going to have a system of meritocracy or some other system? And the old system, as I know it and knew it, was one of meritocracy. But indeed, you know, and whole number of people are graduating from fifth form and from the CFBC. And there's a wave of disenchantment in young people presently. You hear them say, college is a waste of time. Have you heard that?
I have heard a few sentiments expressed in that vein.
And that comes from the disenchantment in young people coming out of college and they have no jobs. It is very sad. They're pumping gas, packing shelves in the grocery, serving drinks on the strip. And it shows the whole process of decline. But what I'm saying to any student tonight who is in fifth form or in the college, get your education. Your education is something that you cannot lose for the rest of your life. You can will it to a family member. And if you're properly educated, trust me, your time will come. I can guarantee you that with a sound education, your time will come. So don't be bogged down by the disenchantment. You know, graduate from fifth form, you go to the CFBC and get your education.
Right. So we're looking at, if we're looking at prospects, it's the prospects seem to be if you're graduating from high school, higher education, or perhaps a scholarship, prospects of scholarships, if you're leaving CFBC, or perhaps prospects of jobs if you don't intend to go to CFBC and have graduated from high school. So I got some educators to give me some ballpark figures about, you know, the numbers of school leavers that we have. The estimate is that for, you know, small high schools like Sandy Point High and perhaps Keon High, there's about 100 you know, high school graduates. Between Washi and Bastia High, there's probably about 1,000 or more. From CFBC, I gather it hovers between 150 and 200. And of course, there is the Virtual Secondary, and there's some private institutions in between.
There's a convent school.
And there's a convent and you know, some other private institutions in between. And there's also, you know, those high schools in Nevis. So, you know, it is fair to say that altogether, maybe around 3,500 young people, or maybe not so much, but in any event, it is not any number that we are seeing can easily be absorbed into the workspace. And if it is true that our young people are not seeing any opportunities or any real pull to go to the college, then how do we discuss those prospects one by one? So the prospect of higher education, of jobs, and of scholarships.
Well, there's no way around it, all right? Go to school, get your education. But as for scholarships, on the 25th of July, 1995, the then government of Dr. Simmons formed diplomatic relations with Cuba. Later, same relations with Taiwan. And now today, if you realize it, those links are bearing tremendous fruit. So here we go again, get your education, apply to Cuba, Taiwan, UE or somewhere. And you know, in preparing our students for scholarships and, you know, studies, I mean, I really think we have to get on the ball a bit more. I mean, kids are going to Cuba. You have to learn Spanish. And therefore, in our schools, even in the CFBC, we should be teaching Spanish. So when the time comes to transition into Cuba, you're already familiar with the language. In Nevis, they're teaching Mandarin. We need to get that done here at the CFBC as well. So by the time you transition into Taiwan, you're already very familiar with the language. I mean, you can't wait until you get there. Okay? In my estimation, the wisdom of it, you prepare before you go. But, you know, the sad reality, the jobs are declining. Some people are going to those places on UE, but we are very far from meeting their needs and meeting the needs of the country. Because in that graduation process, many are into the academic areas, but they have to get into other technical fields. We need to have a cadre of technical young people in this country who can meet our very technical needs. If you can't get a job in the academic area, here you can have a job in the technical area. And in fact, you know, in the preparation for the working world, I really think, you know, some students should be attached to, let us say, a mechanic shop, a joiner shop, etc.
The trades.
Trades. So what you're going to find is that the kid starting that in second form, he can graduate fifth form, maybe 15 subjects, but he's also a mechanic. Could be a mason, a plumber, and that kind of thing. We need to create that multi-talented young person. Because here we are, you look at St. Christopher, Nevis. No problem with the foreigners coming in, but they're taking too many jobs. So we have to get our people prepared, young people, to take over in all those various aspects of the trade.
So when we look at jobs then, clearly we are hearing of late, and this is not just now, but you know, a few years ago we started to hear that you can't just, you know, take up significant numbers of people and hire them in the government service because there was some, I guess, some IMF you know, oversight. Well, maybe oversight is not the correct word.
Well,
but yeah, about
directive.
Right, about the fact that unless there's a vacancy, well, somebody has to exit for somebody else to come in. So in other words, there is dwindling opportunity for in the civil service. Our economy is not necessarily expanding, so that the private sector is not necessarily expanding as a consequence. So we have a number of young people then, you know, bright, 15 subjects, 14 subjects, 10 ones and 8 twos and all sorts of grades. And when they reach to the end of their high school education, they're twiddling their thumbs. That to me is a serious concern.
No, it's a serious concern because, once again, idle hands, idle minds, they're going to deviant behavior. But there's an interesting phenomenon which we have to mention, you know. In the era up to 1995, we had practically no unemployment. By world standards, if you have 5% of your population unemployed, it's considered to be zero unemployment. The issue is that with 5%, it fits into the dynamics that when somebody goes out, somebody comes in. So there's a sort of stable equilibrium. But sadly, that has been disrupted.
So a young person looking at this, you know, what would you recommend? Because as I said in my opening salvo, there's a little bit of a fear, and you just echoed it as well, that perhaps you have this significant numbers of young people, you know, who have the certificates to prove that they can be employed, they're employable, and yet they're sitting at home or perhaps underemployed, because we also have to talk about the underemployment in our qualified young people as well. And so the prospects are slim. They're at home, maybe working 1 day here, 2 days somewhere else. What hope? What offer of hope? what encouragement can you give them in terms of being creative? We saw a lot of creativity during COVID in young people and older people alike. What hope can we provide for those young people? If young people might be looking at this live this evening.
Well, it's a matter of giving instructions and encouragement. You know, young people, okay, you've graduated, you're sitting at home. Let us suppose you've done science in college. Maybe while you're at home, going to some accounting. So therefore, your prospects for unemployment would be widened. And some young people, I have to say, I mean, everybody wants a car and some luxury. But if you have the money and the investment, put it in a business or your education. Here the rewards are going to be much better. And you know, as we're speaking, there's a guy called Billy Joel. He has a song called Allentown. And as you've said, he speaks about the graduations hanging on the wall, but no employment at all. And you know, it is sad. Once you've run your economy into problems and IMF comes in, the problems compound. Because the recommendations they're going to be making would surely not fit your needs and be satisfactory to members of the general public. You know, you cut unemployment, what is that person going to be doing? And like I said, those conditions lead very much into deviant behavior. And deviant behavior is taking a big toll on our country at the moment.
Very much so. Sadly so. Very sadly so. So we are basically at the crossroads. We are basically experiencing this sad dilemma where young people are really, you know, at a turning point. The schools are turning out, you know, they're bright, they're smart, they're creative. The economy is not growing, is stagnant, so they can't be absorbed in the workspace, and it probably is not a good situation. So I don't know if perhaps one of the recommendations could be, like you just said, maybe for those people who were going to go to college later on, to say, look, if I can get a scholarship, then I may as well go ahead and study now, since the opportunities for jobs are on the low side. And I know we had a conversation earlier on about the need for our young people to pursue higher education at an earlier age than you and I did. So maybe you can speak about that.
You know, one of the things that goes through my head, I think in every 5-year period, our government should put maybe $10 million, send off a lot of young people to study. While they're studying, preparations are made at home, the economy goes through changes, and when they get back, they can be employed. You know, there's a very interesting factor, you know, that many young people, I think, they have this reluctance to go overseas to study. 3 years too long, 4 years too long. But I know people have gone to Taiwan, spent 6 years, and they're back here with a master's, and like, time flies. So,
but there's online education, so that could, I guess, that could take away, you know, the physical.
I mean, exactly, you don't have to physically transfer to do a degree. But you know, you speak of young people coming out of college, high school. I'm going to go back on a point I'm making. Here's a young girl, 12 or 13 years. Can't be linked to a seamstress somewhere in Irish Town or Newtown or Greenland. That by the time she gets to fifth form, she's a good dressmaker. So maybe while you can't get a job, you're at home making dresses for people at your own time, your own pace, and you can make a good income. So we have to produce that multi-talented youngster. Like you said, you're graduated, you're at home, you can't get a job in the formal sector. But here you are, maybe you're making wine, cakes, pastry. And in the meantime, you can be employed and making some income. And I think that's the way we have to go into saying it. Create a new pattern in terms of education and the possibilities for employment. We have to have young people in this country who can make a living outside of government or that part of the private sector. Self-employment. Mm-hmm. Because it is sad, the economy is constricting. Our main cash cow is CBI. That is going on a rocky road at the moment. So where do we go from here?
Well, that's the multi-million-dollar question.
No, it's a tough question because if that hits rock bottom, it's going to be very devastating to our economy. And you know, I think that the principle of gaining foreign income has not really taken hold in our country. In other countries, young people do many things. Ship out products, independent of government, and make an income. So take a case like shipping. Some encouragement has to go into shipping, that we can export products to the nearby islands, mm-hmm. and here's foreign income. Because if I'm a farmer planting, let's say, peanuts, I may want a young person to help me with my accounting. 2 days a week, I may want a young person to drive my goods to the port. And there you have a whole economic sector that doesn't really depend on government too much. That is why we have to diversify in education and diversify in terms of our economic pursuits and efforts.
You made a point early on about the government setting aside some funds perhaps so that young people can benefit from that pool to go away to study. But I think I also want to suggest along those same lines that it should not be arbitrary, so that we have an identified areas, subject areas that we need to steer our young people in keeping with the overall strategy of where we want to go as a country. And sometimes I wonder, even now, if there's a strategy in place that we're following, because things seem so ad hoc. There was a time, and I remember many moons ago when I went to study in the 90s, when you go into development bank, there was what was called a priority list. A priority list of areas that in the government's view were critical to them, to the growth and development of the economy. That, I don't know if that is still happening, but surely it needs to happen in tandem with the overall country strategy, so that a young person doesn't just go and study something, and obviously with a loan from the development bank, that when they come back, you know, it really won't contribute to what the government strategy, the overall strategy is. And so I don't know if that is also something that needs to be considered as well.
Well, of course, you know, in this country, we must have targets, all right? And we train our young people to meet those targets. You know, I spoke to youngsters here in this country. You can go to what was cast in Jamaica and do a degree in building technology. And there are many young, they have drafting, they have mathematics, the various subjects, wits. Because once you're qualified, okay, you're certified, then you can attract big jobs. But when you're just learning by practical part without certification, mm-hmm. because certification is very critical for young people. And tonight I'm advising our young people, get out of this habit and know how to do it. Get certified. Because yes, you may have a job doing something which you know. But if you lose that job and you're not certified, how could you transfer? Because frankly, the days of I know how to do it are over. These days are the days of certification.
I totally agree.
And too many areas in this country where we want technical people are empty. You have a problem with your car, something, it's too difficult to find people, our local people, to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to fill that gap, we have to solve that problem.
I agree. Certification really is key. And I know with all of those TVET and the National Council and all of those movements are really towards certification so that they're standardized across the region as well.
Not to really cut you off. One of the areas for young people, two areas I must mention, from which they can earn a good income, sports and music.
Mm-hmm.
We teach some music in the schools, but to me that is very superficial. We have to go into formal music teaching, all right, mm-hmm. where you can write music, play music, because a musician, as these guys are here, can sit in a little studio and make a living. As for sports, take cricket for instance. From the time you play for the Leeward Islands, you're making money. You can make money as an umpire, statistician, commentator. And sometimes, like as in the summer we're having now, they have camps for this, they have camps for that. But how about the camp in umpiring, learning to umpire?
Mm-hmm.
A referee in football, because you're going to work for CONCACAF.
You make money.
You make money.
Mm-hmm.
You umpire a game somewhere, you make money.
So you were saying that the sports program should be built out in a way that post-high school or post-school, the young people can segue into the administrative part of it and monetize that opportunity. Because
that has been one of my arguments. Let us have a good sports structure in the high school. You come out with your academics, mm-hmm. you can go into something, form a sport and make money. But sadly, some of the major sports in this country are dying out. Take the Hispanics we have here. Why don't we use them to teach baseball in the schools? So here's another area of engagement for young people, keeping them out of trouble. Mm-hmm. And who knows what are the prospects beyond it.
And the cross-cultural dynamic can also work to our advantage.
I am telling you, I know people from coming out of Keon, where they went to Curacao and Aruba, who made it to the Major League Baseballs. Mm. And if one can do it, others can do it. Mm-hmm. So once you have wide areas of engagement for young people, come on. Some people going to come to in certain areas.
So there are prospects in sports for young people, young school leavers.
Yeah, financially, mm-hmm. administration.
Mm-hmm. And even as a player, as a sports person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know people here who work for the West Indies in statistics and all those kind of things. I don't want to call names.
Do we know what kind of remuneration these people make? I mean, that should be, I guess a player's salary should be kind of public information. I mean, I remember years ago I'd heard that the payment was based on and I guess your seniority. So that if you were in the team for 10 years, you would make more than somebody who just joined 2 years ago.
But I am telling you, when I spoke with Keith Atherton some years ago, mm-hmm. once I'm in the Leeward Islands team, you're making about $1,700 per game.
70 US a game?
1,700.
$1,700 a game.
Now sometimes the tournament has 2 rounds.
Yes.
So
the farther you go, the more money you make.
The more money you make.
Yeah.
So it is possible a young guy can come out of one season mm-hmm. and start to build his house.
True.
You got to employ a
Or
contractor.
like you say, he might go and buy a car because we like to buy cars and not save.
But what I'm saying, you got to go build a house, contractor, plumber, electrician. And I would like to know that when he looks around for an electrician, he can be a highly qualified citizen young man or young woman. Hold on a way. There's something culturally which I pray to God we eradicate in this country. You have a young daughter, she said to you, Mommy, I want to do physics. I want to do chemistry. No. Them things for boy, you ain't gonna call that. Do French or Spanish homework.
People tell your young daughters that still?
Well, I am hoping that it has been, I don't want to say eradicated, but it has been reduced significantly. But I am telling you, culturally, a lot of women especially, they don't.
But the number of female doctors is not suggesting that these days.
Yeah, but it depends on what area you're going to. What I'm happy about is that in recent, a number of young ladies are into drawing, drafting. When I was in high school, I can call them, there was one girl, Sonia Nisbet, who was doing technical drawing. That is not so now.
No.
One thing, as I speak of technical drawing, that young lady can sit here in a room in a house and do a plan. She doesn't have to go anywhere, and here's some money.
Yeah.
But I am hoping that that trend, I'm hoping that it's cutting out. But sadly, I know it from being a teacher. The young girl want to do those kind of science, they don't encourage her. They don't even want to encourage them to do mathematics. And that area is an area that we have to do a lot of work on. When the summer vacation, why don't you keep some maths and science camps? You see where I'm coming from? We want dance, drama,
Fet.
and all those things.
We have fet in society now. There's a fet every week. But I'm old, so maybe somebody would scoff at me saying that.
I mean, I don't have anything wrong with fetting. I mean, many people tell you go to U when you go to university. You're fet.
True.
But remember, you got to fet on your work, eh?
True. Well, life is about a balance. You have to, everything must be in balance. But I want us to talk about PEP. I can't remember the meaning of the acronym. It's People Empowerment something program.
Something of that.
Yeah. Because somebody called me a few weeks ago and they said, I'm following Perspectives on a weekly basis. And we have been asking people to share suggestions with us about possible subject matters. And this particular lady said to me, I will really like if you can do some investigative work and bring somebody on this platform to talk about PEP. Well, I promised I would. I haven't found anybody yet.
Well,
I just want us to talk about PEP in the context of what we're discussing tonight about prospects. Because in that conversation, the lady said to me that there are now people on that program who are holders of university degrees. And I could not believe it. And so I said, you're sure? And she confirmed to me that yes, that was the case. And my next question to her was, so how are these people being absorbed over time into the civil service? Because clearly, there must be some attrition, whether it's by retirement or resignation. So you are going to keep a young man or young woman with a degree underemployed, perhaps going to a little room and sitting down and doing things that maybe somebody in a grade 8 can do, and wasting all that talent. That has to be frustrating.
A classic case of that was Dr. Jensen Morton.
Dr. who?
Jensen Morton. When I happened to be passing to Facebook, and it said he was on step, I think I lost about 10 pounds. Actually shrunk. A big qualified doctor on step. I mean, that is insulting. That is not the path to go in this country.
It's despairing.
Good. Disparaging. But come back to step, young, strong men in this country, you put them to cut grass. Okay, can they cut grass 2 days a week? The other 3 days learn to operate an excavator, drive a big truck. You see what I'm saying? Be attached to a mechanic shop, be attached to a carpenter, to be attached to a construction project. And you know, paper step to me, you know, it has been very disappointing.
How could you, my problem is, Dr. Warner, how could you have these programs going on in perpetuity without any reform, any review, any analysis, and nothing? You just have people on this program for years
without any way out.
Without any way out. It is an insult to young people.
Of course, which is why I'm saying the young man could be taught to drive a big truck and be offered pepper step after a couple of years. A lot of heavy works are going around saying it's goat on around saying it's young. Can you operate a backhoe, an excavator? And you find in a couple of years he could be off of pepper step. And there's something that is very interesting. You know. If Tom is taught to drive, let us say, a backhoe, he can teach that to his son. What is he going to do? Teach his son to cut grass?
I don't think it takes much teaching to show somebody
and
how to cut
even
grass.
So, we can, some areas of this country need some decoration. We can plant some flowers, and they can go and do the upkeep for when the tourists are passing and whoever locals for the, you know.
Aesthetically.
Exactly. Fruit trees. Instead of going every day cutting grass, they could be cutting grass from around fruit trees. Let us say you plant 100 soursop trees somewhere, and they go there 2 days a week and clean them. You see this monkey problem? If those guys go in the mountain 2 days a week, 3 hours per day, and clean all those fruit trees, which would be, they would keep the monkeys in the highlands and not coming down here to forage. So, in my estimation, it's a sad waste of talent in our young people to be. I know people cutting grass for 25 years or 15, 20 years. You know. And like I said, what are you going to do? You're going to teach your son to cut grass?
So I like to tell people that we don't just come on this program to talk about problems, because every problem is an opportunity to provide a solution. And so I want to use these next few minutes in the program, perhaps to talk about some possible solutions. You know, it is clear that we're an opposition party, and this platform is being used to create in the minds of our people hope that in us, in the People's Action Movement, is a solid alternative of a government. So we can, on the one hand, sit here every Thursday and lament about all of these shortcomings in government and government programs and social programs without ourselves offering some sort of solutions. So I want to ask you to, to just give us some high-level suggestions as to some of the ways that the People's Action Movement government can wean us off or move us in a different direction than we're now in relation to some of these programs.
You know, one thing I want to start with first that goes on between young people, this tendency to towards crime. Eh?
The tendency towards crime.
Yeah, and we have to get our young people together and put them on a far different path, a path of productivity, independence. But as we're speaking, we mentioned solutions. Music in school, that when you come out of school, you can be a good musician. You go to a funeral, there's a guy there, a bearded guy, I don't know his name. Somebody told me he's a builder, but he makes an added income playing music at funerals.
Sometimes he plays an instrument?
Yeah, and he has it. Some time ago, your fellow villager, one Richie Bunting, he made a proposal to the then government, to use music to curb crime, provide employment, better prospects for young people. It was never taken on.
To whom did he make the proposal?
The then Labour government.
Oh, okay.
But he was not. His suggestion was not taken
Yes.
on board. But like I said, it's all a matter of having activities for our young people. We have to train that citizen child to have an academic path and also a possible technical path.
At one and the same time.
Yeah, because you could be working in the treasury, but tonight you're home making a wedding dress. Okay? And it is very sad, that people go into the public service, they get tenureship with hardly any qualifications, come out, get a pension and whatever. But the young person who went to college is denied that. We also have to assist our young people in going into the business. Sometimes we throw our own money, do all kind of things which are not necessary, Because when you're doing a business, okay, that building is very critical. You're able to rent the building. So instead of trying to run a lot of money on some not too serious projects, put down some buildings in various parts of the country, Sandy Point in Bastille. So if you're a young person going into business, you can have a building for a very comfortable rate.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the critical expenses for a young person going into business.
Yeah. Rent.
And I believe in the cycling, that after you spend a certain number of years there, and you're going to university, somebody comes in. For the longest while, I'm wondering, have we been looking into our history? St. Kitts was feeding Stacia, St. Martin, and Anguilla, all those islands around. Why don't we encourage young people to go into farming? The best time in life to go into farming is when you're young,
The best time to do anything is when you're young. But our last presenter sat in that same chair 2 weeks ago and basically enumerated a whole thesis of problems that our farmers are currently experiencing. So I hear you, but based on what he said, I don't think it is very encouraging right now. It wouldn't be encouraging right now, unless there's a paradigm shift in some of the things that he claims is stagnating the sector.
He's probably right. So therefore, any government for that matter has to remove those hurdles or barriers. But we agree, in anything you're doing, you go in when you're young. Because you could have a young peanut farmer, You know how much money peanuts can make? Somebody told me some time ago Jamaica sells about $16 million of flowers to St. Martin.
60 million?
Tina.
$16 million of what? Flower?
Yes, flowers, roses, etc.
Jamaica?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They're all the way down in the west. We're next to St. Martin. Why can't we be doing that? I mean, you can casually come out, enjoy the flowers, take care of them, and make money from them. So a lot of the women who they have on the pep, raking and scraping, and they could be planting flowers and making money. And with the tourist industry we have in here, more and more we're going to have the need for flowers, for fruits. Because, I'd like to see the day in this country when a tourist goes on a trip around St. Kitts and come with a basket of various fruits. We should have fruits planted all along the way. Take the matter of the coconut water or coconut industry. If a young man, he's 20 or somewhere, and he gets a coconut farm, by the time he's 25, so he's harvesting and making money.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of practical ways. They're not the regular on the book ways for young people to make money. But you must have the thinkers in government to come up with these things. And these are the kind of projects I would encourage any PAM government to go into. Young men must learn how to operate vessels like Sea Hustler. So they can run around Anguilla, send man with a trip of potatoes. And while we're in the matter of farming, for ages, I've been trying to push the idea of an integrated farm.
Explain that.
Thank you. You're going to have your plants, basic crop, but you're going to have some animals. So here's the trick about it. If you reap 100 bags of sweet potatoes, what you don't get sold, you give to your animals. So that will reduce the amount of
Wastage.
overseas feed, spoilage, which we incur. But if you're planting watermelons and you get 100 watermelons, you only get 20 sold. What happened to the rest of them? Your pigs can consume them. But it goes further, in the integrated farm. All your manure, peels, etc. Simple technology can go into a tank and you produce methane gas. We're going to go further.
What can you do with the methane gas?
Methane gas is the family to propane gas. That's what you can do with it. You can run a generator. You can cook with it. Because you can pipe your methane gas from the tank to your kitchen. So on your integrated farm, you hardly have to buy liquid propane gas. With your generator using methane gas, you can light your home. Plus you have solar energy. So when you look at it, nothing is going to be wasted on your farm. All the extra carrots, you give it to your rabbits, your pigs, your goats, or whatever. But too much in this country, we have this one-lane farm. When you plant sweet potatoes, you say you can't get them sold, they rot, they waste. But on an integrated farm, you just feed them to your cows, your pigs, etc. And one of the things I would like to see government do in this country, and which I would encourage the PAM government to do, to set up some models of integrated farms. As a young people too, you come back with a degree. The government helps you and establish a farm. So in the meantime, when you can't get a job in government or somewhere, you're working on your farm. Suppose your salary is $5,000 per month, and your farm yields $3,000. The government gives you the other two to make it up. But in the cycling process, maybe tomorrow you leave that farm, somebody takes it over. But in this country, it is hard for us to go forward without improving farming. And here's the key word: food security. Presently, we are talking about the price of goods in this country. There's a certain reality. When goods have to come to you from 8,000 miles away, it's inevitable they're going to be expensive.
Yes.
And we have to get on a program of encouraging our people to consume local foods. Sometimes I say you have a queen show. You have about lovely ladies. You think if they go on TV eating a slice of breadfruit, they wouldn't encourage the young ladies to do it? Remember when Bolt was performing so well and he said he eating all the yam and so? Everybody wanted yam. So some of our entertainers and other people could be helpful in encouraging young people to consume local food, you know. If me think it goes to the Bontewells High School, speak of my school in my neck of the woods there, and eats yam or breadfruit with the kids. Or maybe you could use this or one of them guys.
Yeah.
Psychology. Our young people.
Or make a dish with them. Make a dish in the school with them and then have it. And then
Exactly.
Eat it. Yeah.
So the matter of food security and farming, and to get our people to consume local foods. And we have to educate people about local foods, you know. Because the massive processed foods coming to this country, not good for our health.
Yeah.
Extra salt, extra sugar, cholesterol, and you know the impact on our population.
Yes, yes. But I hear you about, you know, the discourse on young people in farming. It's a question that I asked of the last presenter on the show, somebody who works in that ministry, somebody who has qualified in that subject matter. And I was asking him, why is it that our young people are getting passes in ag science and all of the related, you know, agricultural types of subjects, and yet they're choosing not to find employment in those areas, and specifically in farming. And he did say that there was once a program that is now defunct where young people did an attachment sort of training for a couple of months, but then they were let go and not given permanent opportunities. And so I guess that has served to discourage young people from that sector. So we really, really have a lot of work to do. But I think it's going to take a serious government. It's going to take a government who understands that it can't be business as usual in 2027. And I keep saying that this is groundwork now for us to put the work in and to test all of these things ahead of getting in government in 2027.
Well, I mean, you know, I know people who work in the civil service will tell you they went on a farm to help Mr. This pick peanuts, pick sorrel. You know, on the weekend, some extra income. But like, you know, when it comes to farming, you know, it's a whole chain of activities, you know, in which young people can be engaged. They can work on the farm. A young man may invest in a truck to carry stuff from the farm to the market or to the pier. Why are we training young people to operate boats for entire? Look at what happened with Dominica and St. Vincent. They come up in the boats and they sell everything. And here's it, a boat from Dominica, when they make one trip a week to States or St. Martin, we can make 3. And like I said, the farmer would need somebody for his accounting, somebody to repair his pickup truck. So it's a whole chain of activities.
Yeah. But it also needs supporting government policies. And if I'm remembering correctly, that was one of the very things that the gentleman said is stagnating the sector right now. The supporting policies are missing. And so I know we're talking about prospects for young people as the subject matter on this discussion. So it might be a little bit daunting, you know, to ask the young people based on the litany of woes that are currently being experienced in that agricultural sector. It might be difficult to expect a young person to say, you know what, I'm going to go in, I'm going to dive in and take a shot at it. Unless and until the enabling policies, you know, led by government, are in place to encourage that trade, I can't see it happening right now.
Well, you see, the government doesn't have to farm, you know, but it has to provide the conditions to encourage people to go into farming, the inputs. That is very, very important. Now, historically, our country has been a food exporting country, you know. But we've gone off that path. We need to get back on it. You go in the market, everything is from overseas practically. At one point, tamarind were coming here from Dominica or somewhere.
Tamarind too? I have tamarind falling in my yard every day. I don't know what to do with them.
It only shows you that they're out there, can out to produce things to be sold, but what are we doing?
Yeah. It needs a lot more, we need to be a lot more creative. So we have a few minutes left. So I'm going, of the few minutes left, I'm going to give you 2.5 of those minutes to basically summarize this presentation. You know, as I said, the subject matter really is to look at all the prospects available to young people. And you did enumerate those prospects in sports, in education, in music. So if somebody is just joining this live and you know, probably want to get a good sense of what it is was discussed over the last 55 minutes, help them to understand what it is you just shared.
Now, as we're speaking, okay, there's something which we have to understand very well. You have this generation, the one below and the one to come. You cannot have the second generation poorer than that one, the third one poorer than.
I agree.
Back to agriculture in the whole process. I think we need to, let us say in every year, the budget, that this year is the year for agriculture. Follow me? And then we put in the adequate money into it. So therefore, young people can get a nice loan. It's very interesting with the Chinese who we have coming here, you know. You know, when they come here, they get venture capital. They get vendor capital, low interest rates. Why can't we do that for our young people? You know, there's so many things there. I don't want to go too far off.
But you only have not like another 1.5 minutes left.
But I'm going to say it because I think it's important. I have seen the governments here, government, development bank. They get a young man a loan to buy an old truck from somewhere in the United States. It gets here, he works 2 weeks, makes some money. Next 2 weeks, he got to pay the mechanic. So why don't we get a policy coming back to young people? Give them a good loan to buy a brand new piece of equipment. You know what that means? They can work it for 10 years and pay back without having to spend money on maintenance. But certainly, the younger population is a form of a foundation. If you don't build that foundation and strengthen it, you see what's going to happen to our society. But a number of things which you've said is what a People's Action Movement, being in government, would do. It always takes the People's Action Movement to revolutionize this country in terms of economics and productivity.
For sure.
One of the sad things happening with this present government, you know. Unlike in 1995 when they got into power, they made Port Zante, they made that, and they made that. They just fell into line. But the problem now, they can't come with any creative projects. Talk about the house in 24.
Oh, you'll have to come back for that one.
And it's a different issue.
That is a vexing matter.
But you know, if those houses were in process, young people would get employment.
Yeah.
But we really have to put a lot of effort into our young people.
We have to.
If not, we're going to fall behind in relationship to the other OECS countries. I mean, I look at it. One CEO overseas, another one. What do you want? I mean, nobody in this country, young people can fit those positions.
The question of the day. But Dr. Warner, we have to leave it there tonight. And so all that is left now is for me to thank you for sharing with us your insights, your suggestions, your possible solutions for the prospects of our young people leaving high school or college, this year. As a matter of fact, even as we speak,
it's not just this year, you got to be next year too.
Well, yes, because there are those who are also, on the verge of finishing. But I know that this discussion tonight only scratched the surface. But we thought that it was so important for us to address the youth issue on this program that we wanted to take the time so to do. And so I thank you for sharing. I thank you for giving us all of the insights and all of the suggestions. We are taking copious notes from each of our presenters because these over time would be weaved into our own party strategy when we're ready to roll that out. So I really appreciate your coming here, and I thank you. I thank you, the viewers, too, for logging in and tuning in and for staying vested in perspectives. This is a viable platform and is now being used by the People's Action Movement to push our message and our agenda to people, not just in St. Kitts and Nevis, but across the world and in the diaspora, wherever our people, our St. Kitts and Nevis citizens are. So thank you very much. We remind you that this is a viewer and listener funded program. Of course, you can contribute to us. You can send your contributions to the Secretariat. We have the information that we post on the end of the show. You can contact us as to how you want to contribute to the show. And we thank you in advance for your contribution. Every little bit counts, as the old people say, one full basket. So we thank you in advance for considering us and for supporting this program so that we can bring more topics and more issues to you on a weekly basis. We remind you that our Secretariat will be open this Saturday from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock. So if you want to interact with us, share anything, pay your membership dues, please do drop by and do so. Until next Thursday, when we bring you episode 13, we want to wish you all the best. Goodbye and so long.
This country been run by a brother goats, the greediest of all time. They have all of self and none of the mentality. The chorus is bunch of pigs and goats running this desk, and the latest deception and betrayal is really cause for alarm. They're the greediest of all time. It is plain to see the true gang and give a damn about you and me. Even big supporters crying foul and shame about how these comrades dirty in the Labour Party name. Don't business about that as long as they pocket fat. Too bad who don't agree. The goat them say it's all about me. That's the chorus. Who is the nanny gate liar? Who don't spin doctor? Men, whose sole agenda is to make themselves richer and the poor are them. They say I know that I greedy, but I beg you don't watch me stop being hateful. Instead just be grateful. All the goat them say it's all about me. That's the slogan. The big salary increase is just the latest injustice to be imposed on the people by these blundering misfits. They're selfish and greedy with no love for the needy. Double-licious and runways make the thing ain't got no taste. Disrespectful and pompous, arrogant and self-righteous. These goats too brave and bold, ain't got no heart, no soul. They fed on their own nest with not a care for the rest. They say it's all about me. That's the goat, them mantra. Who want the whole hog treating poor people like dog men? Who keep flying high and style leaving our sons here to die? Who take the pepper, the pop and kill off the peace? Enough talking about lift and elevate, just words and promises but no relief. Who lacking empathy, compassion, humility, Who think that shame, rename is a sustainable strategy? Here they got them, but woe be unto these ghosts and vampires. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10 says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. Firstly, not grievous evil under the sun. Wealth brought to the harm of its owners, lost to misfortune, so that their children have nothing to inherit. So let them carry on, God don't like ugly. Who playing, who fooling, who since June 2022, man. Who do the big bet and switch, divide the poor and the rich, man. Who raking in bigly while so many going hungry, man. Who are disgrace of behind blood sucking parasite, a bunch of termites. It brought them, man.
We love to serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay. We love to serve our country